everything is really okay, my friends. There are no problems, no worries, no stresses. Well, what about the things I've done in my past? Don't I have to atone for those sins, all those terrible things I've done and said in my past, how I acted? No, you don't have to have any attachment to that because that was simply your chemistry and your conditioning. You can only ever make one decision based off your chemistry and your conditioning, your nature running off. We are not actually doing anything. We are the observer. We just think we're somebody doing something. We think we're attached to the doer, the somebodyness, the ego. This is caused by the cycles of thought, which are perpetuated by the cycles of the sea of stimulation, aggravation, and information. Too many terms to remember. So the sea of stimulation, aggravation, and information perpetuates the cycles of thought, which has us thinking we're somebody doing something. It has us thinking we know. It has us thinking we're in control, right? It has us in all these traps. So there is really nothing to hold on to in the past. I don't have to atone for sin. Sin assumes control. There is no sin. Sin assumes we made a decision. We had a choice. We could have done this or that. We could have done this or that, but we chose the bad decision. That's what sin is. No, that can't happen because whatever happens was always going to happen because it happens. There is no choice. We are not the doer. We just think we're the doer because we're stimulated. Our cycles of thought are stimulated. So how do we get out of this? Stop thinking, right? Become the observer in the center of the circle, not thinking, detached, knowing we don't know. This is how we break this cycle of thought, thinking we're getting attached to the past. You can only ever make one decision. You couldn't do anything wrong. Oh, but I acted crazy. You were just acting based off your chemistry and your conditioning, based off of what you eat in your life and the genetics that have been passed to you, your chemistry and your environment, right? That's all your chemistry, but you have no control over, right? And your conditioning and how they program you to deal with imbalance in the chemistry and depression and stress and anxiety, right? So we are nature running off. So there's nothing to atone for. There's nothing to worry about in the past. Oh, you're not taking responsibility. For what? Taking responsibility for what? We are just chemistry and conditioning. We are nature running off. There is no control. The only thing there is to do is observe. This is how we escape the illusion. We realize the only thing there is to do is surrender fully to God, give up all of our attachments, stop thinking, become the observer in the center of the circle, allow the divine, our cosmic beloved, to work through us. That's all there is to do. There's nothing to atone for because you are not in control. We're not in control. There is no control. Because what happens, how do we know there's no control? What happens if we stop thinking for long enough? We need to stop thinking long enough, presence, surrender long enough, then God starts to work more apparently through us. And when we stop thinking enough and get to the center of the circle, right? Center of the circle. So the center of the circle, this is why I always keep this around. You got to always have the circle. The center of the circle is no thinking, the observer, knowing we don't know, detached, no attachments. So this is the highest perspective, the perspective of God, the thoughtless state. And as soon as we start thinking, we get pulled into the illusion and we get stuck in these egoic somebody states in the illusion. So you want to be the observer. Just observe. No thought. This is the highest state. And that will correct everything. Because presence corrects everything. Presence brings us into balance. So we drop all these things that we do when we're out of balance, right? To cope with being out of balance. Bad habits are things we do to cope with being out of balance. We drop these habits by getting back to presence every time. That's been my direct experience. My bad habits come and go with my lack of presence or my commitment to presence, which is all we really can do is nothing, right? We're really the observer anyway. The presence is realizing we're the observer. We're just observing nature running off. This is what happens. When we stop thinking long enough, that's where I was going with this. When we stop thinking long enough, we start to realize we're just nature running off. Because we start to observe ourselves acting and talking, which I have done when you stop thinking long enough. You observe yourself, because you're not thinking anymore, acting and talking and doing things, making decisions, and realizing you are not the decision maker. We are just attached most of the time to the decision maker. We assume control most of the time because we think we're somebody and we think we're in control because we're thinking. We assume control most of the time. So you got to stop thinking, and everything comes into balance. Purification comes into balance, right? Your connection with the divine, emptying the mind so we can receive deeper understandings, and so we can keep consciously moving through this experience at every scenario and realizing there is no good or bad scenario. There is just grist for the mill of awakening, as Ram Dass would say. Every experience you have is perfect and exactly what you need in your journey of awakening. If we take that perspective, it's pretty amazing. It keeps going. There's nothing good or bad. It's just all a practice in presence. It's all waiting. It's all God waiting for us to give our full attention, full surrender. Say, I am not in my somebodyness anymore. I'm done with my ego. I dissolve my ego. Every second we're present, we dissolve the ego, this hardened ego, this lower perspective, and we move closer to the center of the circle. Stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. Dude, why do you keep making the same videos basically every day? They're just slightly different. Because this is the most important topic there is. And we need to keep being reminded of all of these perspectives and these concepts. No control, presence, and purification. Because the illusion, the sea of stimulation, is constantly pulling us back into the illusion by stimulating and aggravating us and giving us too much information, which stimulates the cycles of thought, which has us thinking we're somebody doing something, which has us thinking we're in control, which is the root of all suffering. All suffering assumes control, right? Because we think we're somebody. So we got to stop thinking. It always comes back to the same thing. Any of my videos always basically come back to the same thing. Presence brings everything into balance, everything 100%, because presence is surrender, 100% surrender to God. And what is your reward? Divine balance and communication through your vessel. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. This is our reward for giving up the illusion completely, detached, not thinking, knowing we don't know, not being attached to knowing. That is a huge trap we get caught in. Because as soon as we think we're somebody, we think we know. And then guess what? We're going to be easier to control in this physical reality, right? That's what keeps us under the thumb of the controllers. We think we're somebody and we think we know. So the truth evades us until we have a crack in that, usually through suffering, in that hardened ego, and some of the divine starts coming in, and there goes the flower, starts to bloom. Right? So there's really nothing for us to do. Me making these videos is literally my chemistry and my conditioning. And then my nature running off. I'm not doing anything. If someone came up to me and said, "Yo, dog, what are you up to?" I'm going to be like, "I'm not doing anything, dog. I ain't attached to the doer. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to observe. I ain't doing nothing. This is all just my chemistry and my conditioning." And they'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" You know what I'm saying? Ain't no control, guys. Stop thinking. That's all you got to do. Meditation. Get down with it. Shut off your senses. The sense stimulation is keeping the old thought box going. You got to remove the things that are aggravating the senses and the stimulation. Remove the aggravators. That is why that's so important. Facilitate a state of peace. Reconstitute and empty the mind so we can allow space for deeper understanding from the divine. That's going to help us with our spiritual evolution. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.